Hi, everyone. I'm Amori Amin, and welcome back to the Inner Eyes. I want to thank you all for bearing with me as I've been going through my health journey. I'll talk more about it later, but taking time away in order to concentrate and focus my energy on that. I'll let you all know where I am in the process and how things are going. But I am so happy to get back to Dorothy's journey and how it's the inner journey of self going through the yellow brick road. So there comes a moment on every journey when what you've believed and what is true is no longer the same thing. For Dorothy and her companions, that moment arrives in the Emerald City. They've traveled through forests, faced monsters, escaped traps, survived poppies, reached the city, met the wizard, and now they wait. Because surely now the answers will come. Surely now the one they traveled so far to meet will fulfill his promises. But before we talk about what they discover, we need to understand something. The wizard never appeared the same way twice. In the book, this is what matters because the wizard wasn't simply showing himself to them, he was showing them to themselves. In the Wonderful World of Oz book, each companion meets the wizard alone, one at a time, on separate days, each believing they will stand before the great and powerful wizard. Dorothy enters first, and before her is a giant head, massive, floating, terrifying. No body, no humanity, just authority, just power, just something greater than herself. And when we stop and think about it, it makes perfect sense because Dorothy is still looking for someone to save her, someone who knows more, someone who has answers, someone who can send her home. She's placing all of the power outside of herself. So, what does she see? A power greater than her own. Then comes the Scarecrow, and he sees something completely different, a beautiful woman, graceful, wise, perfect, not frightening, not overwhelming, but beautiful. And this is fascinating because the Scarecrow believes he lacks intelligence. Throughout the journey, he creates solutions, develops plans, always finds a way forward. Yet he still believes he's deficient. He believes wisdom belongs to someone else. So his wizard appears as the embodiment of what he thinks wisdom should look like: elegant, perfect, unquestionable. Not because that's what Oz is, but because that's what the Scarecrow believes intelligence looks like. Then the Tin Man enters, and he sees a terrible beast, a creature so frightening most would run. And this reveals something profound. The Tin Man's deepest fear isn't that he cannot love. His deepest fear is that he's become something less human. Remember his story. He was a woodsman in love, and piece by piece, he's been losing himself. An enchanted axe causes him to cut away parts of himself until eventually every part was replaced with tin, including his heart. And although he appears strong, his fear remains. What if I am no longer capable of feeling? What if I am no longer worthy of love? So he stands before Oz. He sees the thing he secretly fears that he's become: a monster. And then comes the lion. He sees a ball of fire, pure flame, intensity, power, force. And it makes sense because the lion misunderstands courage. He believes courage looks like fearlessness, like domination, like power without vulnerability. But courage isn't the absence of fear, courage is action despite fear. Let me say that again. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is action despite fear. And the lion has already demonstrated courage. When he returned for his friends in the subway, when he fought the Chaldeas, when he protected Dorothy, yet he cannot see it. So he projects his idea of courage onto Oz. a force of fire, something untouchable, something larger than life. And this is where the story becomes deeply human because none of them are seeing Oz, they're seeing themselves. What is that Michael Jackson song? I'm starting with the man in the mirror. They're looking at the man in the mirror, their fears, their insecurities, their assumptions, their longings. The wizard becomes a mirror, not because he is powerful, but because they are projecting meaning onto him. And we do this all the time. We project authority on the bosses, onto teachers, onto parents, onto religious leaders, experts, institution. We're assuming that they possess something that we lack, only later to discover they're human too. I'm hearing that song, I'm only human, flesh and blood on me. Like, you are only human and they are human too. And I want you to think about something. The wizard never tells Dorothy he's a giant floating head. She decides that. The wizard never tells the scarecrow he's a beautiful woman. The scarecrow decides that. The wizard never tells the Tin Man he is a terrible beast. The Tin Man decides that. The wizard never tells the lion he's a ball of fire. The lion decides that. The same source creates four different and completely, vastly different experiences. And isn't that true of life? One person walks into the room and sees opportunity. Another sees danger. Another sees competition. Another sees belonging. The room didn't change, the observer did. One person can see a challenge and feel excited. Another sees the same challenge and feels defeated. One person receives a promotion and believes they earned it. Another receives the same promotion and feels like they are a fraud. The circumstance is not always the thing creating the experience. Sometimes the experience is being created by what already lives inside of us. And that's why the wizard appears differently, because each companion is meeting their own beliefs, their own fears, their own understanding of themselves. The wizard simply becomes the screen they project onto. Let me say that again. The wizard simply becomes the screen they project onto. And then something beautiful happens. Not through Dorothy, not through the companions, but through Toto, the smallest member of the group, the one often overlooked, the one nobody ever expected to reveal the truth. He pulls back the curtain, and behind all the smoke, all the fire, all the booming voices, all the spectacle is a man, a frightened man, pulling levers, speaking into machines, creating effects, manufacturing authority. And suddenly everything changes. The giant head disappears, poof. The beast disappears, poof. The fire disappears, fizzle. And the beautiful woman disappears because none of them were real. Only the belief in them were real. And this is one of the deepest lessons in Oz. The illusion had power because people believed it did. How many things in life work this way? Systems, titles, positions, organizations, people we place on a pedestal. The authority often exists because everyone agrees it exists, not because it possesses divine power. And sometimes we give away our own power because we assume someone else holds it. And this is where the story moves beyond psychology because spiritually, the wizard represents the eternal, external authority, the authority we place all of our hopes in, the authority we place all of our faith in, the authority we keep the flame alive for, that is external to ourselves. The last thing Dorothy believes she needs, the last thing standing between her and herself, the belief that someone else holds the answer, Someone else holds the power, someone else holds the key. And as long as Dorothy believes that, she cannot discover what the journey has been trying to teach her all along. Because the journey isn't leading her to a powerful wizard, it's leading her back to herself. And this is why the curtain has to be pulled back, not to expose the wizard, but to expose the belief that power exists somewhere outside of you, the belief that someone else knows better, the belief that someone is holding what you seek. Because once that illusion falls, everything begins to change. And once that illusion falls, the rest of Oz begins to finally make sense. The wizard was never the source. The journey was. The growth was. The lessons were. The courage was. The heart was. The wisdom was. And when the curtain falls, the truth becomes impossible to ignore. What you were searching for was never hidden behind a curtain. It was standing in front of it the entire time. This is the inner Oz, where the journey isn't about discovering who has the power. It's about realizing why you gave it away. And once you stop looking for the wizard, you finally begin to see yourself. So I want to thank you for going along with me on this journey. And I will continue to see you as we go down the yellow brick road.